Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the behemoth that is the Lian Li 011 Dynamic EvoXL. Lots of words in there. Now you are going to need to get yourself comfy because there is an awful lot that we can do with this case. There are so many ways that you can tweak things, move them around, and they do slightly different jobs every time, and I've got to try in this video and explain them to you in a way that you can understand. So I'm hoping that we've both had a couple of pints in the local beer garden because the weather is glorious in Blighty in Britain at the moment, and that we can have a nice relaxed chat about this and then have a laugh when I get stuff wrong or I miss stuff out, because I'm only human and there isn't a script in the background. This is just us having a chat. But the price at overclockers for the black one, it's £235. The price for a white one is £245. Now you may be saying to yourself, but Tom, where is the white one? Surely you would have asked for a white one. Well, I broke tradition and I went with the black case, so it was easier for us to focus on it in the video and see all the little niggles and all the little things that we can do with it, because there are a lot of them. Like, you can even stick your graphics card on end at the end. It's nuts. So let's go and have a closer look. Now, we always start at the top and the front, and the top of the front is actually quite plain, as you can see. But in my very most professional way, if I just live move you around, over here is where the, well, some switches are. You've got a power switch here, and then you've got a reset down the side, and then you've got two buttons for the RGB. But then what we have to do is go right to the bottom of the case. And when I say right to the bottom, I mean like literally right to the bottom, to see the rest of the I/O. So you've got a combined headphone and microphone, 4 USB-A's, and then you have a USB-C at the side. Now, excuse me, this section here is aluminium. The back panel is aluminium. And then the roof panels are aluminium as well. But this front corner and the two roof panels are indeed aluminium, but they are on top of plastic bases. The only true aluminium panel is the back panel round here with the perforations. Now, weirdly, you do get in the box some magnetic dust filters. Now, quite clearly, magnets do not attach to aluminium, and that's because you have to attach them to the steel portions on the inside of the case that I will show you in a minute. But with the top roof panel, this one doesn't really do a lot. It's just a trim panel, as he flicks his camera around so that he can show you. But the roof one here, when you undo it, like I said, it's plastic underneath, but this one exposes the radiator shroud in the top. Now this is all screwed in around the outside, so you can completely remove this, take it straight out the top, attach your radiator to it, and then drop it back down inside. It will make your building life a lot easier rather than having to put the case on the side and stuff like that. But this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as stuff you can disconnect and remove to make your life easier, or even sometimes more complicated. Okay, so around to the we always call this the back, but this is the back panel. Yeah, maybe the rear. I don't know, it's kind of the back end, isn't it? So, round here, you've got a grommet up here, which you can use for a plethora of things. But someone's going to tell me exactly what it's for, because I keep thinking about like radiator stuff, but maybe it's a pass-through so that you can have one of those internal screens, and then you can pop it out and plug it into the graphics card. Who knows? Someone please tell me. This is one of the things on this case that I've not quite worked out what it's for. These plastic clips here are another one where I'm not quite sure. But anyway, round the back. You've got your normal I/O here, and then there are screws that you need to undo here so that you can release the covers on the inside. It keeps the inside cleaner, I suppose, and it also means rather than having lots of screws to undo on the inside, you've only got these two. It also means that there's it is easier because of the corner of the case. It wraps around and it comes to about here. You wouldn't be able to get a clean line in with your screwdriver. So this makes your life a bit easier. 120mm fan mount, which can be moved up and down. You can see these brackets at the top and the bottom, and these can be removed and reconfigured so that you can move this whole tray up and down, which I will show you when we get into the inside. But this whole section can be moved up and down, and I'll explain why in a bit. Power supply mount here, and then you've got two vented areas up the top and below. And what I want to do is just zoom you in so that you can see the back section. Now that is SATA power and data, because there's like hot swap sections in the back. Maybe not hot swap in the sense that you can remove them while things are turned on. You probably could do, but it's more about the fact that you don't have to run independent cables and they just clip in. That's all nice. So that would be for your 3.5 inch and 2.5 inch hard drives, which again I will show you more of when we get round the back, because there are, yeah, this is where things start to get complicated. So the rear panel, aluminium, as I've said, just normal aluminium. This sings back to the early days of Lian Li for me, with like the A77s that we used to cut up, water cut, anodise, powder coat. We used to have to put our own radiator mounts in them, for heaven's sake. And that is just where I kind of come from. Round the back though, you can see the metal inserts that they've put in. Now the metal inserts I didn't say to you about before, but you can put your dust filters there. But what you can also do, because of the steel, is you can put them, there are thinner ones, and let me get one of the thin ones, there you go, you can fit them over the top as well. So there are steel parts on the back of the door for those of you that might want some extra dust filtering. Now I'm zooming you in quick because we have a lot to cover. I'm going to start with here though, because it's most on the outside and it's quite easy to see. These are for 2.5 inch hard drive mounts. This is on a magnetic mount and it just spins, but beautifully what they've done is they've put another magnetic mount over here. So if you've got a reservoir in the back or something, you can flick it round. Also, even if you're not using this, it's kind of nice that it doesn't flap around all over the place, and it does give you a lovely amount of access into the back. Now, when we are in the back, there are a lot of cables, and that is because of the hot swaps that I spoke to you about before, because you can remove these, fit your 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch hard drive, slide them in, and then you're good to go. You can just lock it back up again and slide it in, and it holds in there with magnets. But what this does mean, as he looks for the cables, is you have a SATA power down here and a couple of SATA datas. They're the same up here. You've got one SATA power and two SATA datas. And you can obviously have these in if you want, but if you don't, you can completely remove this entire section and just have yourself a more open area in the back of the case. When they are opened, there are hidden tabs around the back for you to be able to align your cables. And I love the fact that the whole back section of this case that has got cable pass-throughs has grommets, and what they've also done is they've allowed you, no matter where you put the motherboard tray, you are going to have an opening in the right place with grommets as well, which means it's just incredibly customizable, but it is going to help you keep your life tidy. Now, I did think when I first looked at the case that all of these trays on the back were for many millions of hard drive mounts, because you can see them there, there's loads of them, but it is for these. And there they are, your cable routing tabs. Now, I'd still like to think that Lian Li have made these in the right config, that you can still put some more 2.5s in the back if you want. But if they haven't, I think they've missed a trick. But I'm not going to say a negative point about it, because like I said, they've allowed these extra cable guides. You can have cables behind, you can have velcroed ones above. I just hadn't clicked that in, that's the only reason why that moved. Didn't do the top one either. You do need to give them quite a push, but then they are. The glass door just fell off the back, and I will explain why you need to put the annoying screw in a minute. But we're lucky that didn't break and I didn't get to sound like a Canadian YouTuber that everyone seems to be hating on at the moment. Staying away from that. Anyway, I didn't break it. But I'll explain why you need to be doing the screw in a minute. Lucky is an understatement. I'm trying not to laugh, but I don't know whether I would have cried. Anyway, so these cable, it's because I was doing this, because they are properly in there. So you can have cables behind and you can have smaller ones in front. There's more cable tidies all the way around. There's another one of the metal ones here, which has come a bit unhinged while it's had other cables in. So I'm going to remove that. Don't forget, if you don't want these 3.5 inch mounts, then you can literally just move all of these around and have a load of them. So again, many combinations of being able to keep things tidy. If you do have a lot, because obviously you're going to have a power supply here as well, one of the cool things is you can have your cables in there and then push this around, and it's going to help keep the back on, and you're not going to see this either. There are more cable grommets in the side here, and they go top to bottom on this back section, which is beautiful. It's going to make your life easy with all the cables that you're going to need to put in for fans. And do you know what? We're not finished with this back section yet. So here we have the radiator mount, which you can fit a 420mm fan, which is 3 times 140mm fans on it, so 420 rad, and then all the configurations in between. So you can go 360 downwards. It won't fit a 420. It won't fit a 480. It looks like it should, but it does just pop out, top and bottom, and then you can remove it. Now this bottom section here is for one of the clever things, and I know a lot of you would have seen it, but some of you wouldn't have done, and that is for a vertical graphics card mount. Now what this does is allow you to fit your graphics card up this way, and you can get, this is an optional extra, so is the riser cable, and they do a 0.9 meter, so 900 centimeter riser cable, so that you can fit over here. Now you can fit it top or bottom, because when it fits into the screw holes on here, it can go both ways. And this is why things get incredibly confusing and incredibly quickly with this case, because you can fit it in there like that, pop it in, and then you can turn that directly all the other way round like this. Look, I'm literally just going to turn it round and do it this way. Now this way means that you could have your fans on the back and then a radiator on the inside and more fans on the other side if you wanted. But if you just wanted to have all of your radiator and fans on the other side, then what you can do is remove this again. Rather than turning it upside down, you turn it that way round, and then come on, in we go, and then you've got a flush panel at the back here. So your radiator and your fans will all be on the other side, and that's why I said these are handy, because you could then have that over there if you wanted. Obviously you can have it directly on the back panel as well. So this is loads of options, and this, like I said, is a very funky thing. You can see that you've got 4 screw holes, and if I can get it in, do it this way, it would mean that you can have your graphics card lined up there. I think for this one it's meant to be the other way around, but there's loads of ways that you can get it in, and you can have this mount at the top or the bottom depending on how you want to display it. There's a mount there in the box, and then this is the massive riser cable. These are optional extras. They just sent me to be able to show them to you. But wow, that's just the back section, and we've only just hit the tip of the iceberg. So we're not laughing, but props to Lian Li, the panel survived. Now the reason why it came off was this little screw here. Now when you first get the case, please remember to remove this screw before you start tugging on the top panel. But the way to get them fitted the right way is look for the little tabs on the bottom, like that one there. The tabs go on the bottom like this, and then you push the case home. Now that little screw is at the top here, and the reason why it came out is because we were banging the case around and moving it, and it pulled out of the tabs. Because on this side there aren't very many. You've literally just got 1, 2, 3 on the top, and that's it for actual location on the glass side of the case. But when you first get the case, that screws in, and what you have to do is remove the top panel and then the screws in over here. So if you get it and you're wondering why you can't get your case panel off, that's your first port of call. Now I would suggest that if it's on your case, you don't need that little screw in there unless the line over here starts to wind you up, but you can push it home, because if I zoom you in, I'll just show you what I'm going on about, and this is more of me trying to give you a guide with the case rather than reviewing it. When you do push it home, a lot of the time this corner won't latch in properly, and you just something like that, and you see there's a bit of a gap. We just need to give it a bit more of a push home to make sure that it's sent all the way home, and this will allow you to, in this config at least, not worry about said screw. The time that you will need said screw is if we remove all of this. Again, try not to drop it on the floor because it's not a cat with 9 lives. The bar section that you can see there, and we'll remove this front panel as well. Oh no, this front panel's got a screw as well at the top. Anyway, this bar here can be completely removed, so that you've got kind of a frameless corner. But like I said, there's a screw there for the front panel, you're going to have a screw here for the side panel, and it's just to give them a little bit more rigidity if you do remove this. This is literally just a couple of screws, top and bottom. It's completely up to you, but what I would suggest, my own personal advice, I would say if you're going to remove this, remove it once it's on your desk and it's in its place. Put it back in if you're going to transport it, because this is going to give the case so much extra rigidity, and if you try and move it too much without it, you've got the likelihood of tweaking the case, and because of strange movements, a much higher possibility of making the tempered glass shatter. I was incredibly lucky before. I can't believe it didn't, if I'm honest. Anyway, I did say to you about the motherboard tray in the back, and that it can be moved and tweaked and moved around. Well, the entire case can be completely inverted if you want. You can flip it around the other way. It's literally all there. It's just a case of taking it all apart and just getting busy with it. But if you do want to remove just the motherboard tray, there are 4 screws down the back. You've got 2 at the top and the bottom, and then there are 2 more on the inside. Remove the inner ones. When you remove the inner ones, you then come into the inside. There is a screw there and a screw there on the motherboard tray. I'm going to grab my screwdriver and we'll remove these. Now these are captive, which means they shouldn't come all the way out. There we go. And then you can remove the motherboard tray. But what we can also do at this point, if we come round to the back of the case, you can see that we have that panel there. Now the one at the bottom can come out as well, but these can be moved so that you can raise or lower the motherboard tray. So if you want, you can move the motherboard tray up, which gives you more room at the bottom for bigger radiators, and you can do the same in reverse. You can move these right the way to the top, have a larger radiator in the roof, and the motherboard tray lower in the bottom. It's completely up to you. Like I said, it's beautifully, infinitely customizable for you to play around with and your rig. But the other side of it is, if you do move the motherboard tray upwards, you can see around the back there are 2 extra grooves, and that means you can move the 120mm fan even further up if you want to, and you just go beyond the tabs. Refitting the motherboard tray, you have to look for the line-up holes around the back. Am I going to be able to do it with one hand? Probably not. There we go. And then you look for the locating pins. Now you've got a locating pin there and a locating pin there, but you can see the other ones where you can move it up and down. And then screws to hold it in place. And there we go. Now, as I did say, there is a plastic dust filter in the bottom, but you can add an extra one there. You can add one in the roof if you want. You can add them in the back. That's all easily done. The lower radiator tray is removable as well. 2 screws, pop that out, fit your radiator, pop it back in. The roof one out the other way. One of the things I didn't show you with the motherboard tray off was all of the grommets. I'm hoping someone noticed, but the grommets are all there, so everything lines up. But what you will notice is from the back of the motherboard tray, we're so used to being able to go in to be able to change heat sinks, you know, AIOs, you know, whatever with the case assembled. But for this, if you want access to the back of the motherboard socket, you do have to remove the tray. I think that if you're water cooling, it's probably not going to be too much of a problem anyway, because if you need access to the back of a water cooling socket, you're more than likely draining the water cooling anyway. Now, I do have props, because where we're on the inside, you kind of need to get a feel for how big this is. And I have here a 60mm thick Alcock cool, as in Dave Alcock from EK, 60mm thick rad with a set of 25mm fans. And we can put that in the bottom just to give you an idea of quite how large this case is. It's still below the motherboard tray, still below the motherboard bolts here, with a massive rad in the roof. And if we move it up, it's still above the motherboard tray bolts there as well. So with a single set of fans, you can have a 60mm thick radiator, easy. If you wanted to go push-pull, you could shrink down to a 30mm radiator and then have the fans above. And I can't demonstrate that because I haven't got any singular there to be able to grab. But I did think when I first looked at this case that it was so massive that you'd be able to get a 4x 120mm rad in, and that was a 480, and they catch the glass, it just won't fit. So the largest you can go anywhere on this is a 420, which is 340mm fans. If I was to put, this is 30mm thick with a set of fans on it. When you see how small that looks in the case, but it does give you loads of room. Obviously you can have that there, but when you go in the back, even if you put a 360 in the back with a single set of fans, it then comes level with the motherboard tray. And that's with the radiator mount pushed all the way back. So you can comfortably get 3 rads in here, but the complicated part is going to be when you start to think about reservoirs. So do think about that wisely. EK do have a habit of making panels to go in the front for these, and I can completely see why. No, sorry, it's in the back. But I think it wouldn't be a bad idea if we had a massive EK rad that clips into the front on this, and it would just be spectacular to have a massive distro plate in the front with loads of rads inside. And if the distro plate had a pump in it as well, then you've got your reservoir sorted. You could get 3 rads in here, like, not that you'd ever need it, but flipping heck, maybe if you were running Xeons or a massively overclocked 4090. But you can see just how easy this case soaks up radiators, and we could even get more in the back. Here we go, look. Let's put one in the back over there, and we can put another one in the roof. And that's only a 30mm thick rad, but there's more acres of room here. We could definitely get 60mm thick rad in the roof as well. Yes, you're gonna have to get creative with your hosing, but a lot of rads now have hoses available on the ends and both sides. So if you're creative enough, you would definitely be able to work around it. But for water cooling, radiator support, and just how easily configurable it is, it's an absolute blinder. Oh, I need a drink of water because there's been an awful lot of talking, and I have to think about this one as well because it's not straightforward. There is so many ways that we can twist and do everything, and that's why I'm going to give the case the OC3D Enthusiast Award, because it isn't your run-of-the-mill case. Considering what you can do inside and how much it would cost you to fill it, I don't think the price of the case is that extreme. Sure, £250 isn't the cheapest case on the market, but with the hardware that you're going to be investing, or even you're going to be looking at 4 digits by the time you started doing your water cooling, by the time you got a water block, GPU water block, CPU water block, and then the rads, you're talking a lot of money. The amount of fans that you could put in this thing, you know, that's going to be crazy levels as well. So that's why I don't think the 250 quid for a case to house it all is that bad. They genuinely have tried to give you every possible conceivable option straight out of the box. Yeah, sure, you've got a riser cable and the GPU mount, which is separate, but I don't think everyone would want to use that, so I think that's fair. A lot of people are going to end up with a vertical GPU here, and that would be lovely. That's one thing I suppose I could say, is there isn't a native vertical GPU mount within it, but there are so many out there from other companies now, and I don't particularly think that matters. Most of the ones that I've seen that comes with cases, unless they are over here, don't really work. I think the only nice ones are when you have to turn this section around and you can just bolt it straight in. But anyway, I don't think it's a deal breaker, because I think a lot of you out there are going to have a favoured one anyway. With vertical, if you go air for whatever reason in this case, you're just going to want to make sure it's back near the motherboard so that you've got plenty of room. Obviously, air is an option with this case. Air with an AIO, an option with this case, sure, but I genuinely think the purpose and the best way to use this and get the most from it is going to be with dedicated water cooling. This case is basically just your canvas for you to create your art, and that all comes out of your head, and that's why all of our systems are slightly different, and I think that's quite a beautiful way for us to end it. You buy this case as a blank canvas to create your PC Master Race art. And I think Master Race can sound a little bit like we lord over people, and it's not necessarily that we're lording over people, but you can't do stuff like this with a console, can you? Not so much anyway, but you get what I'm saying. Massive case, massive water cooling ability, and massive configuration options. Definitely, hands down, deserves the OC3D Enthusiast Award.